Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson. So today we are tackling organic chemistry. We have two organic chemistry. We have organic chemistry 1 and we have organic chemistry 2. But today we shall start with organic chemistry 1. So in this topic we are going to be tackling about carbon and hydrocarbon chemistry. So organic chemistry, it is the study of carbon atoms, excluding their oxides and carbonates. That it is the study of carbon atoms, excluding their oxides and carbonates. So in this topic, we are going to tackle about the carbon compounds, except the compounds of carbon with oxide and the compound of carbon with their carbonate. So we shall tackle all the compounds of carbon except the oxides of carbon and the carbonate of carbon. So carbon forms a very large number of compounds. Carbon can form very large number of compounds because carbon atoms can form stable covalent bonds with other carbon atoms and with other atoms of other elements. So carbon can form a very large compound. This is because it is in a position of forming stable covalent bond with other carbon atoms and with other nonmetal elements. The reason why a carbon forms a very stable covalent bond with itself and with other nonmetals, number one, to start with, if you remind yourself on what you tackled in Form 2. Carbon is number 6 in the 20 element. That means it has an electronic configuration of 2,4. So the last energy level of carbon contains 4 electrons. So carbon is in a position of forming very stable covalent bonds because it uses all its 4 valence electrons. It uses all its 4 valence electrons. That is number 1. Number 2, carbon, it is in a position of forming single, double, and triple bonds with other carbon atoms. Carbon is in a position of forming a single bond. We shall see that later in the second lesson. It can form a single bond, a double bond, and a triple bond with other carbon atoms. Number 3, carbon atoms can join together. Now let's look at hydrocarbons. So hydro, it is a representation of hydrogen, and carbons, it is just the way it is carbon. So this is a bond of hydrogen and carbon. So when hydrogen and carbon bond, they make hydrocarbons. Now in this topic of organic chemistry 1, we have 3 categories of hydrocarbons. So the first category is alkanes, then we have alkenes, and the last one is alkynes. If you look at alkanes, so alkanes, they have a single carbon-carbon bond. For example, you can have one carbon bonded to another carbon with a single bond. If we come to alkenes, we have a double carbon-carbon bonds. So one carbon will be bonded by a double bond to the other carbon. Then you go to alkynes. Alkynes, we have a triple carbon-carbon bond. So one carbon is bonded by 3 bonds by the double bond. We are going to start with the first hydrocarbon, and the first one is alkanes. So alkanes are a group of hydrocarbons whose carbon is linked. Carbon atoms are linked by single covalent bonds. So the presence of single covalent bond make them saturated. So alkanes, they are saturated because they have a single carbon-carbon bond. Now, if you go to the next one is nomenclature. So the naming of alkanes. How are alkanes named? So alkanes, they have their names. So the other one is the nomenclature. So the naming of alkanes. How are alkanes named? So alkanes, they have names that have an end, which have a suffix of so the other one is nomenclature. The naming of alkanes. Alkanes have names that end with a suffix an. They have a suffix of a, just from the name alkanes. So their suffix is n, and then they have a prefix of meth, which means it has one carbon. Then we have eth. If you add the prefix and the suffix, this one will give you, the first one is methane. Then we go to the second prefix, which is eth, and if you add them together, it is going to give us ethane, and ethane has 2 carbons. The other prefix is prop. Prop, if you add with the suffix, it is going to give us propane, and propane has 3 carbons. We go to the other one, which is but. If you add, it's going to give us butane, which has 4 carbons. We have pent, we have hept, we have hep, we have opt, we have non, and we have dec, which has the last.
Thank you for watching. Tune in to the lesson number 2.